Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you today? It is a lovely Sunday and I am back to do a video for you. Now you may know that I've actually already posted this video, but it was pointed out to me I had made a huge mistake in the first one. And I thought an author was a woman because I googled the wrong name. Don't ask. Don't ask. I've had a great weekend. I celebrated my friend's 40th birthday up at the Russian River. My nephew arrives tomorrow. I fly to San Diego to get him. I'm super excited. And in my hurry to try to get my back work done for my video, I accidentally changed the gender of an author. So I'm back. And I'm going to do this again. And the reason it's so important is that I learned from Instagram and the Reading Women. Now, if you don't know who the Reading Women are, they are two women that have a podcast together, which is fantastic. They read so many amazing books and they talk about them so well. So I will link their podcast below. I also follow them on Instagram, and on Instagram is where I learned about this. And also, I think one of the Reading Women, Kendra, I don't know if and I'm totally blanking on the second name, but I know Kendra also has a booktube channel, so I will link her below as well. So those are kind of the three different, I know they're on Twitter as well. But they talked about how this month is Women in Translation Month, and they were reading books by women in translation. And I thought, well, you know, that's fantastic. I have books by women in translation on my TBR that I should read, and I didn't know it was Women in Translation Month. So I thought, hey, I'll share that with you guys. I'll talk about some books that we could all possibly read and get the message out there. And thank you so much to the Reading Women to bringing this to my attention. Now, the first three books I'm going to bring up I haven't read, but I have read many books by the authors. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the books I have read, but really focus on the books that I haven't read so that you guys can be excited with me as I get ready to read them. The first book that I'm going to tell you about an author is Magda Szabo, Isa's Ballad. Now, I read The Door by Magda Szabo maybe last year for my book club that meets online, and it is fantastic. The Door is the story of two women. One is a wealthier woman who hires another woman to work for her, and they're very psychological, very dark relationship. Now, the woman she hires, I want to say her name is Esmeralda. I really should have picked that book. Esme, I can't remember exactly, but she kind of is amazing in the stuff that she can get done and do at her age, but then she also refuses to do some stuff that you would think would be part of her job. And she's kind of got that mama bear thing, is she's gruff. You can't really get to know her, but once you're on her side or part of her group or family, she will go to bat for you. So it's really, really well done. There's a big twist, a betrayal at the end that you won't see coming. I won't give any more away, but if you haven't read The Door by Magda, you really should. Now, this is Isa's Ballad, which New York Book Review published after The Door did so well. And this is the story of Eddie and her daughter, Isa. And Eddie is an older woman from a different, sort of just a different generation than her daughter. And her husband dies. And her husband was what was he? He's a viceroy or a magistrate. And he has always run the house and the wife has always supported him. And when he passes away, she goes to live with her daughter. And it's kind of a story of their sort of them butting heads on how the world works in Hungary at this time period. Now, I read a fantastic review, and if I can find it, I will try to link it. But Lauren Groff, who wrote Monsters of Templeton, Arcadia, and Fates and Furies, who I adore. I think I've read all three of those books, and I own her short story collection. She wrote a really great review of this book. She does talk about how dense. Now, Szabo is not a very lyrical short sentence writer. She writes dense, solid, informative paragraphs, but she's a beautiful writer and a psychological writer, and I highly, highly recommend both The Door and Isa's Ballad. Now, the next author I'm going to tell you about is Yoko Ogawa. Now, I have read two other books by her, The Housekeeper and the Professor, which I've talked about before, which was one of my favorite books of last year, and Hotel Iris, which I did in a wrap-up this year, which may be one of my favorite books this year. and they're very different. The Housekeeper and the Professor is the story of a housekeeper that takes over for a professor who has a memory issue, and it's about their relationship. She has a son. It's about the relationship that develops between the three of them as they struggle with the memory issue that the housekeeper the professor has. He can only remember the last 80 minutes of his life, and it's fascinating, and it's actually super sweet and endearing, but also very much about how relationships are what you make them and how you build them. It's excellent. Hotel Iris, other end of the spectrum. Dark, disturbing. It's a story about a young girl and her relationship with an older man, and it is brutal and fantastically written. And it is so good. Oh, but before I forget, I want to tell you the translators. Now, Isa's Ballad is translated by George Sizritz. I don't know how to say that last name, guys. So, but I want to make sure I mention because the translators are so important in translated work. Now, this is Yoko Ogawa's novellas, 3 novellas called The Diving Pool. Isn't that a beautiful cover? And I was prepping for this video, and I read the back, and I'm just going to read it to you guys, because once I read this to you, you're going to go buy this book, I promise. It says, a trio of novellas about love, motherhood, fertility, obsession, and how even the most innocent gestures contain a hairline crack of cruel intent. A lonely teenage girl falls in love with her foster brother as she watches him leap from a high diving board into a pool. A peculiar infatuation that sends unexpected ripples through her life. This next one, guys. A young woman records the daily moods of her pregnant sister in a diary, taking meticulous notes of a pregnancy that may or may not be a hallucination. But whose hallucination is it? Hers or her sister's? This sounds so good. A woman nostalgically visits her old college dormitory on the outskirts of Tokyo, a boarding house run by a mysterious triple amputee with one leg. Don't those sound so good? I think in nature that she's more of a dark writer than the Housekeeper and the Professor led me to believe as her first book I read, which I don't mind at all. And these are all translated by, let me look that up for you real quick. Stephen Schneider, who teaches Japanese at Middlebury College. And it appears he translated to a lot of people, so that's fantastic. This, I'm super excited. I really don't know why I haven't read this already. That's The Diving Pool by Yoko Ogawa. If you haven't read The Housekeeper and the Professor, you should go do it. And also Hotel Iris if you like a little darker work. Now, the next author probably needs no introduction, and that's Kang. And this is her novel, Human Acts. Now, Kang wrote The Vegetarian, which did very well over the last few years. It is a fascinating take on a woman who becomes a vegetarian and basically how it affects her whole entire family, sort of the psychosis that goes on with this choice. It's extreme. It's very vivid. It's a very vivid book. And all of Kang's books that are translated that I know of are by Deborah Smith. And that's important. I'll talk about Deborah Smith in a little bit going forward. But this is Kang's second book, Human Act, that came out in English. And this is the story of a student uprising in Seoul. I don't know what year. I want to say I think it's the 80s, but I'm not sure yet because I haven't read it. And a young boy is killed. And it's really how that death resonates through a bunch of people. A lot of people I really, really trust have read this book and say it is equally as good as The Vegetarian. If you haven't read The Vegetarian, you really should. It's probably at your local library. It's out in paperback now. You can probably get it at a used bookstore. Human Acts has been out for a while. It probably is going to come out in paperback pretty soon. But I really, really am a huge Kang fan. Now, the next 3 books I actually haven't read, or anything by those authors. And the reason Deborah Smith was so important is because this is from Tilted Access Press, and Deborah Smith started this. So she is the translator for the Kang works, and this is actually a novel. This is the second one out of her press. And this is 100 Shadows by Wang Xuan, translated by Junguen. And I said all of those names wrong, and I'm so sorry. I will link everything below, as I said. And it says in this book, in a slum electronics market in central Seoul, a city better known for its shiny skyscrapers and slick pop videos, an awkward tentative relationship grows between repair shop assistants Ungao and Maju. Having both dropped out of formal education, their circumstances are already uncertain when the market is earmarked for demolition. an event seemingly linked to a strange recent development. The shadows of the slum's inhabitants have started to rise. So I am all about some Korean novels lately. They have been so good, and I really think this sounds good. Now, I got this out of my moth box a few months ago, so Mercedes over at Mercy's Musing picked it out. I'm sure that it's going to be fantastic. That's 100 Shadows by Wang Xuan, translated by Junguen. So, there you go. So last video I put a book in here because I had Googled someone and I thought it was a woman. So this is the book that's coming in to step in. And I don't know why I didn't think of it in the first place. And that's The Unit by Ninni Holmqvist, translated by Marlene Delgray. Now, I have to say, this book was actually brought to my attention by my husband, and I think that if you are a person who's a fan of Kazuo Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go, this book might be up your alley. So let me read you the back. I really think you should get it. I'm just telling you right now. It's an uncanny dystopian novel that envisions a society in the not-so-distant future where women over 50 and men over 60 who are unmarried and childless are sent to a retirement community called The Unit. They're given lavish apartments set among beautiful gardens and state-of-the-art facilities. They're fed elaborate gourmet meals surrounded by others just like them. It's an idyllic place, but there's a catch. The residents, known as dispensables, must donate their organs one by one until the final donation. When Dorrit arrives at the unit, she resigns herself to this fate, seeking only peace in her final days. But she soon falls in love, and this unexpected, improbable happiness throws the future in doubt. Come on, doesn't that sound so good? The Unit by Ninni Holmquist. I'm going to put that up there. Okay. And then the last book I hauled not that long ago, and that's All the Rivers by Dorrit Rabinyan, and it is translated from the Hebrew by Jessica Cohen. Now, I remember I told you guys when I hauled this book, the reason I bought it is because it had gotten banned in Israel. And I thought, well, oh my goodness, anything that's been banned must have something important to say. This is the story of two children, or actually probably young adults, Hilmi and Liat, and they meet in Greenwich Village, and one is Israeli and one is Israeli and Palestinian. It has been a long weekend, guys. Sorry about that. And they fall in love and they have a relationship. It's about the decisions that are made as she chooses not to tell her family, not to really involve him in her life, because there are all of these questions about the relationship in her head due to where it goes. So that's All the Rivers by Dorrit Ribbon, and I think it sounds really good. If you have, by any chance, read any of the books I've talked about, any of the authors I've talked about, I'd love to hear from you. Did you know it was Women in Translations Month? Thank you to the Reading Women for putting that on my radar. I really, really appreciate that. If you are a return subscriber, thank you guys so much. You know how much I appreciate you. I really enjoy loving all the comments that you guys leave at the bottom. And then if you are new to my channel, thank you so much for subscribing. I apologize that I had to do this video twice. Silly me for making a mistake. I appreciate the person who pointed that out to me. I really do, because now I can fix it. I hope you all have a fantastic week. I am picking up an 8-year-old tomorrow, so my week's about to be crazy. I can't wait to see you guys soon, and we'll talk later. Bye!